middle of a series we started last week. The series title, I guess, would be called Just in Time. And last week, whenever we were talking about just in time, we were thinking about, we started from the Ecclesiastes, the mentality that says that for every season, there's a season for everything under heaven. There is a season for everything under heaven. And so, as I have gotten older, I begin to look back on periods of life and I see how seasonal things have been throughout my life. Whenever I was younger, probably didn't see it through that same lens because back then 1 year seemed like forever. Now 1 year seems like a blink of the eye. And I look back on the different seasons and I see this out of Ecclesiastes. There is a season for everything under heaven. And I shared this thought, or this what I felt like that the Lord had been talking to me about whenever I felt like the Lord said, Matt, I would rather you be in time than on time. Because I was under a lot of pressure, like I was feeling like there was all these things that needed my attention. They needed me to be there. They needed all these things. And I was having these inconveniences come up that were actually God's provision for me to be in a place at a time because that's what needed to happen. And instead of me trying to get out of that conversation to go where I was supposed to be on time for, God was like, I need you to just be seeking me for my timing of things instead of your timing for things. I would like to say that after I said that, my staff has tested this theory. We had a meeting on Wednesday in which I got a message from one of the staff letting me know that they were going to be in time and not on time today. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then they followed up by saying that they were taking a little bit longer in the bathroom than that they had intended to. And so I was like, I don't know that is what God was meaning about being in time. But I thought that was funny. Thank you for taking that sermon and using it in a different way. But we all know what it's like to be out of his timing, right? Whenever we're trying to get ahead of him and make things happen the way that we want it to. Or maybe we're lagging behind him and he's wanting us to move, but we're kind of just wanting to stay where we're at. And so the importance of being keyed in to what his timing is in our life, which requires us to have a gift called discernment, that we have to discern the season that we are in. Somebody asked me a while back if I could go back and tell the 20-year-old version of Matt one thing, what would it be? And I was like, I would go back and tell Matt, 20-year-old, like 30 years ago, Matt, I would tell him, Matt, everything will be a season. If you are in a really great place, celebrate it, but it's just a season. If you're in a really bad place, you can mourn it, but it's just a season. If I had known that whenever I was 20, I think I might not have hit the panic button so often in my life because I would have recognized, hey, today's rough, but it's just a season, right? Amen. So discerning the season that we're in. Which leads to our conversation today. And it comes out of a conversation I was actually having with the staff about a month ago, and Candace shared something that just moved me. It stirred me, and I was like, the church needs to hear this. And so you're about to hear this. So Candace, thank you for being led by the Spirit to share with us something that's now going to bless the whole group. But I want to ask this question first before we dive into what God wants to say about this subject. I want to ask you, does there ever seem to be a time in your life where God just seems absent? Y'all ever walk through a season where it's just like, God, I know you're faithful. I know you love me, but man, you just don't seem to be very nearby right now. I need you to move, and you just seem absent. Sometimes we would even go as far as to make a thought or even an accusation like, God, right now it seems like you don't even care about this. Like, this is important to me, but it doesn't seem like it's as important to you as it is to me. Am I the only one that's felt that? Okay, I am. Thank you. All right. All right. You know, it's like a Carrie Underwood song, Jesus Take the Wheel. But it seems like he just went ahead and took his hand off the wheel, and the thing is just like spinning out of control, and you're about to end up in a ditch. There's just times in life where even though we know that God is faithful, we know that he is good, we know that he is loving, but it seems like he has just gone into a silent mode, and we're trying to find our way through the dark of life. Reminds me of a time whenever my G's were younger, we were in the electronics section of Walmart, and they got distracted by all of the fun gadgets that are in the electronics section. How many of us have ever enjoyed getting distracted by the electronics section of Walmart? So they were distracted. They were younger. They were probably under the age of 10, both of them, and I thought this was a great moment as a dad to hide myself from them. And so I went and I hid around the corner where I could see them, but they didn't see me. And it was evil. But I was having so much fun watching them like, Dad, where's Dad? Do you know where he went? And I'm just standing there peeking out from behind the cabinet where they couldn't see me. And there was this moment where I realized, okay, it's probably this joke's gone on long enough. It's time for me to step out. And so I stepped out, and I'm like, I'm right here. I could always see you. I never left you. You are always safe. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Now, God's not evil like I am. He's not hiding from you just so that he can mess with you. But it's the same thing that even as children, whenever we cannot see God moving, whenever we can't sense that he is there, he's there. He's there. And then whenever you finally do come to that revelation that God, you never did leave me, you never did forsake me, it gives you that confidence that even whenever we feel like that we're in the dark, we're not. Most of the time, God is hiding in plain sight. The problem is not him. The problem is us. And we got our eyes on our difficulty instead of our God. But do you think that Jesus ever felt like, where are you, God? Yeah. I think we have it written in the red letters. Why have you forsaken me? So even Jesus knows what it feels like to go through times whenever it feels like that God is just not there. I talked about a story last week about a guy by the name of Lazarus. Martha, his sister, sent a messenger to Jesus and said, hey, Lazarus is sick. Would you come heal him? And so Jesus stays where he's at for a couple more days until Lazarus dies. And then whenever Jesus shows up on the scene, Martha's like, if you had just come when I asked you to, you could have prevented all of this. See, that was a time whenever Martha was wondering, God, where were you in the middle of my storm? There's a time whenever Elijah was hiding in a cave. And whenever God shows up, he asks Elijah this question. Elijah, why are you here? And I've said this before from the pulpit. I don't think God was talking about a cave. I think God was talking about where Elijah was in his heart, in his mind. Elijah, why are you in this place? What has happened that has brought you out here to this cave where you're even saying that you don't want to live anymore? And Elijah's response was, I am all alone. You think Elijah was in a moment? Yeah, whenever he was like, God, I just don't even feel like that you see me right now. I feel like I'm the only one trying to do it. And so you see these people, these heroes that went through similar times where it just felt like God was absent. And sometimes we go through times. There might be some of y'all that can say, yeah, I remember that season of life. There may be some of y'all that are like, yeah, I'm right there right now. There may be some of you that it's coming in your future, and you need to hear this now so that whenever you hit that point, you'll know that God has not abandoned you. He has not left you. He has not forsaken you. He is faithful to watch over you. It's not that he is absent or that he's disappeared. It's just that he is leading you through his goodness into the place that he wants you to be. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Psalm chapter 13. King David had a similar feeling. I want to read the first 3 verses of Psalm chapter 13. It says, David said, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart all the day? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Enlighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death." You think David was in a good place? How long, God? Basically, he's saying, how long are you going to ignore me? Was God ignoring him? No. The problem is not God ignoring us. The problem is usually us being patient enough to get where God's leading us to. And we hit that panic button, like, God, this is all falling apart. It's about to unravel. And David's like, you're going to have to move because I'm about to die. That's what David was saying. And I can imagine God's like, calm down, David. Don't calm down. You're not about to die. I've got this. It's going to be all right. God's got to be doing that with all of us. Gosh, y'all calm down. I've got it. So here's the heart behind today's message. The heart behind it is what he intended. What he intended. That's today's title. See, our problem in life is that we don't know the next chapter. How many book readers do I have in here? You enjoy a good book. How many of you, if it's on audio, you're in? There it is. That's my people right there. I'm good with a good audio book. I'm taking a nap if it's on paper. But whenever you're reading a book, unless you've cheated, you usually don't know what's going to happen in the next chapter. That's one of the reasons why it makes it a good book, because whenever you get there, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that just happened. And so it keeps the excitement going in the book. And it's great for people on a page, but it's not so good for us in life. Because we're like in this story and we don't know the next chapter, and we don't know if whenever we turn the page, if it's going to be a good page or a bad page. And so we're living life like, I need to know what's going to happen next. I need to know that the next page is going to be good because I want to go from good place to good place. I don't want to go through that valley place. And because we don't trust the author, we don't know what that next page is going to be. Wow. The problem is we don't trust the author. Because the next chapter, it might be a hard chapter, but there's another one coming. If we trust the author, then we know whatever the next page, whatever the next chapter, the author is good, and he's going to write a good book out of it, no matter what. Lord, help us to trust the author of our faith. Because so many times we want to take the pen from him and write our own story because we think that we know what the next chapter should be instead of him. But that's for a whole other sermon right there. Would you turn to the book of John, chapter 6? John chapter 6. John chapter 6 is full of good nuggets of Jesus' story. But this part that I want to read is towards the beginning of it. Jesus has set up to be able to teach a large group of people. Matter of fact, the Bible even gives us kind of a number of how many people that were there. It says that there were 5,000 men plus women and children. I mean, we're talking about possibly over 10,000 people have gathered to hear what Jesus is about to say. And this was before sound systems. This was before the ability to have a microphone. Can you imagine Jesus trying to communicate to such a large crowd? And so whenever you look at this story in John chapter 6, let's begin in verse 5. It says that Jesus, therefore, lifting up his eyes and seeing that a great multitude was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where are we going to buy bread so that these people can eat?" Pause right there. Hey, Philip, you see all those people? How are you going to feed them? Where can we go get some bread? Can you imagine kind of the moment that Philip is like, me? You're asking me where to buy bread for 5,000 people? And so the next verse is crucial in this. It says, and Jesus was saying this to test Philip, for Jesus himself knew what he was intending to do. Jesus asked Philip a question, shocker, that he already knew the answer to. Jesus said, hey, Philip, where are you going to get some bread for all these people? Already knowing that he was about to break some fish and some bread and feed them all. He knew the answer before he ever asked. Said that he was testing Philip. And so the question for us in these seasons of life, whenever God's like, hey, how are you going to get through this? Whenever he the whole time knows what he is intending to do in your life. He was intending to feed miraculously over 5,000 people. What is he planning on doing miraculously in your life? He knows what he's intending to do. You just don't know yet. And the problem is that a lot of times we don't have a whole lot of confidence in what he's intending to do. We're kind of in that place that Philip was. Me? I'm supposed to fix this problem? No. He already intended a solution. He was just seeing if you were going to try to do this in your strength or his. Are you trying to do your life in your strength or his? See, the people didn't know what Jesus was intending to do. The disciples didn't even know what he was intending to do. But he was intending to feed them all. They were hungry. They did not know where the meal would come from because they didn't know what he intended to do. I want to say that one more time where we can hopefully grasp it. These people were hungry and they did not know where their meal was coming from just because they did not know what he was intending to do. In your life, there's some areas where you've got need and you don't know how it's going to get met. And it's only because you don't know what he's intending to do. But if you know how good he is, and if you know how loving he is, it don't matter that you don't know. Because he does know, and he's going to get you there. Martha did not know what Jesus was intending to do until her brother was coming up out of that grave. The crippled man by the side of the pool at Bethesda. He did not know what Jesus was intending to do until Jesus said, get your mat and go for a walk. You see, we don't know. You know what, I'll even say this. Jesus walks up to a place called the Gerasenes. There was a demoniac there, and the demons shouted out to Jesus, and they said, are you here to torture us before time? The demons didn't even know what he was intending to do. They were scared of what he was about to do. You see, we don't always know what he's intending to do, but if we know him, we know it's going to be okay. How much fear do we walk in because we don't know what he's intending to do? Can we just sit right there for a second? How much fear and anxiety do you walk in simply because you don't know what he's intending to do? man, I lived there. Because usually there's a way that I think would be the better way, and I'm afraid he's not going to do it that way. Because he seems to be okay with my discomfort so that I can grow to become the man he wants me to be whenever I'm trying to live a life with no discomfort. I'll give you just a couple of personal examples. 10 years ago, like the Fresh Prince would say, my life got flipped, turned upside down. I had what it seemed like the ministry was going well, stepped into a great season. Life was going good. And my first family dissolved. Some of y'all were here, a part of that season of life. Sis, that was a scary time, wasn't it? It hurt pretty bad, did it? And I remember in that season, I was actually mad. I was like, God, how dare you allow me to go through what we're going through? Trying to take care of my kiddos, take care of a church, walking through a lot of pain and a lot of grief as that marriage and that family unit came to an end. And so in that time, wanting to kind of hit the panic button of life, kind of shake my fist at God and say, why in the world would you allow me to go through this? I didn't know what he intended. Because a couple of years later, this amazing woman came into my life. And we're all getting to have the benefit of that. The Lord intended to use her to heal some broken places inside of me. He intended her to come alongside me and bring life to a church and come and bring stability within a family. Whenever I was going through my pain, I was like, Lord, it seems like everything's falling apart. It was only because I didn't know what God was intending to do. And then it was not long after that we were in the middle of this crazy season called COVID. While we're in the middle of COVID, this church was in the middle of a church split. We were going through some real difficulty. And I remember one Sunday, it was about a month or two before Easter during that season, that I talked to Bobby, who was this steady ship all the way through it. I don't know how you did it, Bobby, but you were there right beside me the whole way. And I told Bobby, I said, hey, if things have not turned around by Easter, I'm going to have to tender my resignation from pastoring this church. And thank God some things turned around by Easter because I'm still here. But some of you that are sitting here have been so faithful for so many years. Thank you for your faithfulness. I would like to ask you, if you have started attending church at Trinity since COVID, like within the last 6 years, would you stand up right now? That's like half of y'all. Thank you. So, and here's why I do this. Because 6 years ago, whenever I was hitting the panic button, thinking that I was leading Trinity into a ditch and that Jim had entrusted me with something that was so valuable with this church and with the sheep here of this church, and I'm like, I was given charge of it, and I've ruined it. And I was living underneath all of this weight and all of this pain and frustration, thinking that I had been entrusted with something. I just screwed everything up. At that time, I did not know what God had intended to do. And so now I stand here 6 years later, And half of y'all weren't even here 6 years ago and don't even know what I'm talking about. And it's okay, because God knew what he intended to do and the lives that he was going to touch and the lives that he was going to bless and the way that he was going to continue this ministry moving forward. And then there's one more thing I've got to tell you all about that I didn't know that God was intending to do. So part of Lindsay's and my journey, whenever we were in an engagement phase, Lindsay was like, hey, I was wondering, are you still open to having more kids? So at that time, I think I was like 44 years old, and I thought that door was closed. Matter of fact, I was okay with that door being closed. And Lindsay's like, I would like to have another child. And if we get married, will you be open to that? I'm like, oh, what is the right answer here? And so I told her, I was like, look, I thought I was done, but I don't want to take that away from you. So if you would like to have another child, I'm open. But there is an expiration date on this. That's not an open-ended, right? So after we get married, not long after getting married, we found out that Lindsay was pregnant. So much excitement. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. See, what happened with that pregnancy was a miscarriage. And so healing from that was another pregnancy and another miscarriage. And the pain I watched in her life as she knew the window was getting closed. And then a few months later, I was now 46. Rusty, how old are you? All right. Prophetic word for you right here, buddy. He's Rusty. I was 46, and I went to Lindsay, and I said, babe, I am so sorry to tell you this, but the expiration date is hit. And I want to schedule a surgery to put an end to the possibility of us having children. And she was like, would you please reconsider? And I was like, okay, I've reconsidered. I'm still not there. And so she said, I tell you what, would you do me a favor? Would you allow me to do a reversible procedure so that whenever you finally hear from the Lord, I can reverse it and then we can have a kid? She didn't put it that way, but that was the heart behind it, I think. She's like, how about I go have a reversible procedure, and then if the Lord changes your heart, then we can reopen that. So she walked into the doctor's office to have a procedure done that would make it not a possibility. And the doctor walks in and says, I'm sorry, I cannot do this procedure because you're pregnant. And that, listen, she looks cute on the screen. Try living with that thing right there. Oh, man, I love her. Oh, I love her. But here's why I share that story. I didn't know what he intended to do. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I was about to shut the door of one of the greatest gifts of my life. God, thank you for blowing up my story so that you could do yours. And I tell all of you the same thing today. No matter what you're going through, no matter what the season is, We don't know what he's intending to do, but we can trust him that what he is intending to do is going to be good for us. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. That's where we started with. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it says this: there is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. As the writer of Ecclesiastes is speaking, he says that there is an appointed time. I got a phone call on Friday, and we were in the middle of getting ready for our citywide worship event here. A lot going on. Saw the name pop up, and I knew I had a lot going on, but I was like, I want to take this phone call to see what's going on. I answer it, and there was a man that was weeping on the other side of the phone, and he said, "Pastor, it's happened." He said, "You know how I've been asking for the church to be praying that the relationship with my son could be restored?" And I said, "Yes, Kenny, I know. What's going on?" He said, "I just got off the phone with my son, and it's been 2 years since he would talk to me. And while we were on the phone, Pastor, he told me he loved me." Now, I know there are some of you in here that are estranged from your family or your kids. They're not talking to you. They won't sit at a table with you. And there's a lot of despair and a lot of pain right now. Like, how does that get restored? I don't know. But I know what he's intending to do. So as Kenny's talking to me on Friday, and he had been crying out to God for a move, and 2 years later, he found out what God was intending to do. And there's some healing that's now taking place in a relationship where there was no relationship before. And I say that for your benefit. I share Kenny's story. I share my stories for your benefit so that you can know whatever situation you are in right now, that God is intending to do something about it. He just may not be on your timeline, because according to what it says here in Ecclesiastes, there is an appointed time for everything under heaven. There is a time that has been appointed for God to do what he's intending to do in your life. So you don't have to despair, you don't have to fret, you just have to be faithful. And then I got one more thing. It says that whenever our faith fails, he remains faithful. So we just keep following, we keep serving, and then whenever he has his appointed time. As a matter of fact, if you look in the book of Habakkuk, how many of y'all turned right there? Habakkuk 2 verse 3. Y'all, this verse right here, a worship team, would you come on up, please? Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. It says, oh, this is important. Make sure you're keyed in on these words. It says, "For the vision is yet for what? The appointed time." Now here it is. "It hastens toward the goal, and it will not fail. Though it tarries, wait for it, for it will certainly come. It will not delay." Come on. Let's give him thanks for that right now. That's good. That's good. And the reason why that is good is it's because he is good. Though it tarries, wait for it, for it will certainly come. It will not delay. Which leads to our last verse. Galatians chapter 4. Hey, matter of fact, that's what David's going to be teaching us tonight, Galatians chapter 4. Matter of fact, I've got the New American Standard up here. Let's read it in the New Living Translation. It says, but when the right time came. The what time came? Yeah. God sent his son. But at the right time. At the right time. At the right time. Some of you right now, just like whenever you felt like that God was absent, whenever you felt like that he was out of time, he was at the right time. There's an appointed time for you. There's an appointed time for your answer. There's an appointed time for him to move. We're going to try to find out what that time is, right? We just got to be patient and wait and believe that he is good. Those who are going to be offering communion, would you come on up? We're going to take communion together. Here's our intent in communion, is that we're remembering Jesus and what he did. It says, unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you cannot have any part of me. This morning, as you take communion, let's remember the scripture in Galatians that we just read. That at the right time, God sent his son. Jesus was not early and he was not late. He was a God of the right time. And in your situation, he's not early, but he's not late. He's on time. He just needs to be on his time. And so as you take communion today and we remember Christ, remember him being on time or in time. Remember he's in time for you as well. Take of his body, take of his blood, and also thank him for having an appointed time for the very thing you're asking him for, that you're believing him for, that you're seeking him for, at the right time, that he's going to move on your behalf, because he's a good God and he loves you a lot.